Good morning, everyone. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with John Patrick Mullin, the visionary CEO of Mantra Finance, a blockchain company that's making waves in the UAE and beyond. Mantra Finance has been taking the UAE market by storm, signing groundbreaking partnerships with some of the region's biggest players, from tokenizing $1 billion worth of asset with the DAMAC Group to collaborating with leading real estate developer like DAMAC Group and forging alliance with Zand Bank. So Mantra is getting a new benchmark for how real-world asset can be brought into the digital age. John, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to the conversation and appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. So to start with, can you introduce Mantra Finance in your own word? And what inspired the idea, how it's different from other players in the blockchain space?
Yeah, so Mantra's been around for nearly 5 years now. Actually, in May, it'll be 5 years. We launched our native token OM, in August of 2020. So we've been around for some time, have gone through a number of different iterations and waves. But presently, we are basically a layer one blockchain specifically built and purposely built for RWAs, real world assets, and tokenization. So we help facilitate the movement of assets on chain, and then are creating a robust ecosystem for composability of these real world assets to be able to actually make them more functional, more liquid, and more composable.
Perfect. So Mantra has been making waves, as I said, in the UAE, the MOU with the MAC, the MAC, and Zend. Can you share more about these partnership and what they mean for Mantra?
Yeah, absolutely. So our journey in the UAE really started probably back in 2022 when we first heard about VARA, which is obviously the regulator out of the DWTC economic free zone for digital assets. And we were looking at the time at other regulatory frameworks and jurisdictions where we could operate effectively like a compliant on-chain DeFi ecosystem. And we really kind of found out over time that Dubai and the UAE was going to become a good place for us to set up shop, so to speak. We went through the process, or actually been going through the process of VARA for quite some time, to be completely candid. But we're one of the more novel projects that is actually seeking licensing here because everything that we're doing is meant to be fully natively on chain. And what that means is everything is meant to be, governed by smart contracts. It's meant to be self-custodial. That being said, we've created a technology and a software that allows us to have, compliance. It allows us to have kind of governance frameworks and allows us to have control over these types of assets. So basically, because we've been able to create this technology and we've been able to build it on our purpose-built blockchain, it allows us to interact with key leading industry players from financial institutions like Zand to asset tokenization, partners like MAG, like the MAC, and others. Novus is another one, Novus Aviation, another one, who are interested in bringing their asset portfolio on chain and choose Mantra to do so. So effectively where we sit is we work as a technology partner. In many instances, we're also, significantly experienced in just how all of these different operations work. So we're part of the structuring, we're part of the advisory team. We're really hands-on for all these different types of deals and transactions because in many instances they're, new and novel, haven't been done before, frankly. So we're everything but an investment bank or a distribution layer. Obviously, we support and make sure that we bring our network in, but again, that's not presently our function as we don't have the brokerage or distribution licensing to actually sell. So really, we're a technology partner, and that's how we portray ourselves with these partners in the UAE.
So before we started this interview, we've been talking about real estate in general.
Yep.
So I recall when talking with decision makers in the real estate space, the first impression for me was always like, what is the motivation for us to do this? Because we're selling everything very fast, and a lot of investors are in. None of these projects is not yet sold out already. And so, what is the motivation for us to go for blockchain? So, how do you answer this question?
So obviously sitting on the other side, and I don't want to put words in any any government body's mouths. I want to make that clear. I see it as a way to attract capital, global capital from around the world that is interested in a very high quality product, that's interested in getting exposure to the UAE and to Dubai, and that is a marquee asset that people want to go into this part of the world now increasingly. And by tokenization, you're facilitating broader access to capital around the world, and also in smaller pieces, right? Because through fractionalization, maybe the barriers to entry just become lower, right? So you can have people who are interested in buying an asset class that has year on year gone up significantly. Also, rental yields comparatively to other major markets around the world are very attractive. So a lot of people would be interested in this asset class. It's interesting because we focus on two primary asset classes. A third would be kind of IP a little bit, but mainly it's real estate and primarily UAE real estate. And the other one is financial instruments. So funds, primarily money market, private credit, these type of financial instruments. And particularly with the change in administration in the US, I think not that it won't be
Don't
important for
don't
the
don't
UAE,
don't
but
don't burn this. It's one of my questions. Yeah.
no worries. I'm
Go
just, I'm
ahead.
just so
Go
basically
ahead. Go
all I'm
ahead.
saying is I think the US will be, Wall
The
Street, New
destination.
York that's the home of capital markets, right? And that's not changing. Um, Not that it won't be bigger in the UAE. I think it's a massive opportunity for on-chain private capital to come to the Middle East and to Dubai and Abu Dhabi. But I do think that real estate is really where Dubai and the UAE has an edge
Yeah.
because of the willingness of stakeholders to participate in these conversations, because of the willingness to be innovative and take part in different types of pilots to actually make something legitimately world changing.
Yeah.
And because of that, I just think you have that alignment. It's an important part of the country's future, and it's a very you have all the right pieces of the puzzle coming together, and that's what makes it so appealing.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that you're in the process of or you applied or you're trying to get a license from Vara. So
Yep.
so can you share with us uh, this process? How was it, and the
Mm,
challenges you've been facing?
absolutely. So, first off, I want to say that from day one, which was a long time ago, but from day one, the whole process, while lengthy, has been a positive experience.
Mm,
And, I think part of the reason why I say that is, not just trying to kiss ass, but legitimately you're able to engage in a conversation, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to say, hey, you can do whatever you want, and hey, we fully understand your model, or hey, this is okay. This fits within this rule book or that rule book. Actually, like in many instances, the way that our model works was not meant for the way that the rule books were written.
mm,
Um, but the fact is, they're willing to engage in a conversation. They're willing to talk to you. They're willing to get to understand what you're building, and they want to understand, right? So I feel like because of that dialogue, it just makes the process more um, easy to deal with. Because even though it is taking time for us, we understand that we are literally doing something completely novel. We'll be one of the first, at the receipt of this license, hopefully in the near future, one of the first projects in the world to have something like this. And Dubai will be pioneering that with Vara. So we're very excited about that opportunity. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to be challenging. Honestly, if it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. So we're even more bullish on the opportunity because we know how challenging it is. I mean, we spent a significant amount of time, right? I mean, I'm talking we're almost on 3 years.
yeah.
And because of that, it also shows that this thing is significantly valuable and there's a significant moat around it. So just purely from a business perspective, it is a significant advantage for us because that creates a moat that creates, a competitive advantage that we can leverage to continue to build out our business and be one of the, UAE's kind of homegrown success cases.
So, John, help me to understand here. Why do you think regulators worldwide are still struggling to create the clear regulation around real
Mm,
world asset tokenization? Where do you think the hesitation or the fear stems from?
good question. I mean, I would say in general,
Is it
one
that
of the
complex
reasons
in your opinion?
Football. Okay, for me,
For
no,
us,
but
it
I've
is
been
not.
doing
Yeah,
this for,
okay.
for a very long time. I mean, basically, my entire career has basically been doing this. Um, so I think the reason why it is a challenge is one, it is built on very novel technology, and the crypto space, the blockchain space as a whole, evolves at a pace that is just like crazy. I mean, we say 1 year in crypto is like 5 years in TradFi, right? I mean, it really just moves so fast, which is why I love it. That's why it's exciting. But that's basically completely at odds with how regulators like to work. So that's one thing. It's highly technical, which is another challenge. Frankly, crypto has a branding problem, and every time a bad actor does something, even if it has
Thanks.
nothing to do with the technology, it affects everyone. From SBF to all these guys that have done bad things in the past. It does have an image issue. It creates an image issue. So that's another thing. And then honestly, the other thing that is challenging is just finding the right personnel who understand this. And the reason I say that is because if you're talking about DeFi, if you're talking about doing things on chain, if you're talking about real world assets, all these things are quite new and novel, and they require you to get out and test it and work on it. And in many instances, the incentives aren't aligned because the people who are doing this stuff and doing it at the practitioner level, the economics just actually incentivize you to go out and do your own token project. They don't incentivize you generally to go work at a regulator. So it is a challenge to find the right people to come in and actually regulate this stuff because again, it's changing, it's technical, and the economics aren't necessarily always there. So we're fortunate that there's a really strong team at Vara. There's also a really strong team at ADGM. We're obviously actively engaging on both fronts, and so far all the conversations have been very positive, and they're willing to learn. They're willing to participate, and they want this to happen really. And that's the other thing. I think maybe other places they didn't want it to happen. So that's a big they still need to make sure things are cautious and they're doing it the right way, but they do want it to happen in the end.
So, but how come they are not benchmarking on places like Switzerland or Singapore so what they are trying to solve more, frankly speaking?
Well, so you have to think about it though, right? Like there haven't really been success cases in Singapore or Switzerland that aren't anything other than local.
Yeah.
Right? And I wouldn't say that there has been significant product market fit for any of those more mature, regulatory frameworks pertaining to STO or RWA or tokenization or however you want to call it. Because again, if you create a regulatory framework today, actually, if you create a regulatory framework when Singapore or Switzerland did, and I'm not trying to throw shade or say anything negative about them at all, but if you did that in 2019, 2020, which is when these things were
It's
coming
not
out, maybe even
relevant now.
2018, it's completely irrelevant,
Yeah.
right? And that's even the same consideration that we had with Vara, right? When we were going through the process, we started in 2022. We're now sitting in 2025. The technology difference between then and now is night and day. And again, that's why it's taken some time because they're trying to create an opportunity for us to use the existing technology in a way that makes sense, but constantly is changing. So that's a very big challenge. And I'm just fortunate that they're actually willing to listen because in many places they would just tell you no.
Hmm.
And by the way, we've talked with FINMA, we've talked with MAS, we've talked with SEC, HKSFC. I mean, all these guys are trying to, but if you're trying to put a square peg in a round hole when it pertains to the technology, it's just going to be a challenge. And that doesn't mean that it won't evolve over time. I'm hyper bullish on all this to happen. I mean, I firmly believe in 10, 15 years that there's going to be the idea of any asset, anywhere, anytime in the palm of your hand.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think we're going to be the ones to do it, frankly.
Hopefully. So at the end of the day, I liked what you said. The motivation. If you
Mm.
know, if you know how to do it, and if you understand it well, you will build it for your own. You'll not choose to go and be a regulator. So
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. So I'll move forward. How do you see the Trump administration policy or their impact affecting the blockchain and tokenization space in particular, and specifically in the US to start with?
So I'll just first have a little bit of a comment. This is a make altcoins great again hat. It's not a MAGA hat. um, just to make it very clear, because I've had some people ask me. Um, but as it pertains to the new administration and President Trump and some of the things that he's doing with respect to crypto, I do feel like they are highly bullish and frankly a breath of fresh air um, for the industry, right? And it's good that this is being talked about at the national stage. I'm an American, so I do feel fairly strongly about this type of stuff, and I do think it's moving in the right direction. I also do think that, frankly speaking, if you just go on crypto Twitter, which I spend a lot of time on, um, people are more bullish than they probably should be. They're
Mm.
more excited than they probably should be because I think a lot of people have never done anything regulated in their life. Um, and they just assume that because now there's a
So it'll
crypto-friendly
be a Wild
president that it's
West
going to be.
again.
I mean, you could say use the example of the UAE, right? Bullish regulator, um, general direction that's affirmative and positive from the central government. You have all the right pieces of the puzzle here, and it still is a challenge. It
Yeah.
doesn't make it easy, right?
Yeah.
So if you take the US, which is multitudes times bigger, multitudes times more complex from a capital markets and regulatory ecosystem perspective, it's not just like you're going to be snap your fingers and it's all perfect overnight. So it's a step-by-step process. I'm very, again, bullish on the longer or mid to long-term opportunities in the United States. But there is two sides to everything, and it doesn't mean that just because President Trump's in power that the opposition is going to roll over and say, "Hey, you can just go and take it," right?
It's not
So long way to go
I believe there's a lot of existing regulation, and they need to be shaped up and tweaked,
on both fronts. Yep,
and
absolutely,
it needs to go the normal process of any regulation, and not everything can be done by executive order at the end of the day.
for sure not.
Yeah,
Usually, you see at the administration level when they change, you have the flurry of executive orders, and then it actually turns into, okay, what are we actually
yeah.
like putting through
Yeah.
putting through,
How
through
to do it?
Congress?
How to do it?
What are we passing? Yeah, exactly. How to do it. Right.
So, as Mantra, are you planning to tap into the US market, or you already there?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you think that?
So honestly, we've intentionally been very much avoiding the US
Hmm.
as much as possible,
Hmm.
other than me going to conferences and speaking a little bit.
Yeah.
um, we don't have any physical or legal presence there at the moment. We're exploring what that would look like. We are beginning to hire personnel there to lead the market. And I think a lot of it is more around um, relationships, network, and having boots on the ground. And maybe to a degree, some degree of actual technical product building, things
Yeah.
of this nature. Um, we operate on a global scale anyway, right? I'm in Hong Kong. We have people in Australia, Southeast Asia, Middle East,
Why?
obviously,
Hmm.
Europe, the Americas. Um, so we have people everywhere.
Yeah.
So we work 24/7 around the clock.
Yeah.
Um, so it won't really change like the business from that perspective. But I think the way that we're kind of seeing entry is we're not going like, oh, we're now, setting up shop, moving, headquarters to the US or anything like that. But rather taking that part, I guess, a little bit cautiously, just to make sure, again, we do everything the right way. We don't want to step afoul of the SEC or any other regulators there. You have to always be cautious. And then the other side is there's other opportunities for us to get into the US. We can get into the US via distribution on exchanges, whether that's Coinbase, Kraken, or Robinhood, for example. We can get into the US via tokenization platforms like Securitize. We have a partner that's a FINRA regulated broker dealer called Tritorian Capital that we've been building a protocol called Soma Finance with for some time now. They've been going through a lot of work with the SEC and FINRA on how to actually do tokenized stocks and other types of tokenized instruments on a DEX. So that's pretty exciting stuff. So we have different ways and avenues to get there, but it will be slightly light touch. It's not going to be like overnight we're moving everyone
I
to
got you.
New York City.
I got you. So I always said, and we did a roundtable last April around tokenization, and I wish I had you there with us that day. And for me, I believe that probably the tokenization of real world asset is the driver of like it is the main driver to bring banks
Mm.
into the play. So for them, we've been discussing the stablecoin thing, we've been discussing the CBDC, all this, and I felt like banks always are okay. What's in it for me? And it's just
Mm.
compliance hurdle, and but probably whenever we're moving toward tokenization and it's becoming mainstream, so obviously their stakeholders, their investor will be looking into assets or different portfolio, and banks will have to step in and have a part of this pie. So,
Yep.
how do you plan to drive the adoption of tokenized asset, especially about traditional investors who might be hesitant to embrace blockchain technology?
Yeah. So, kind of the way that we're seeing it is the real adoption of RWA tokenized assets is going to start and has already started at the institutional level. The challenge with many of these institutions is getting them to be um, accepting of permissionless blockchains, which is beginning. It's definitely happening, which is exciting, but also just general on-chain activity. So that is actually the challenge, less so about the idea of it being in a token anymore. Because honestly, if Larry Fink is saying stocks and bonds should be tokenized, which he literally said yesterday, then the world listens, and that's an important statement that he's making. I'm very fortunate for that that he says this type of stuff. It's a
We
big
should, we
it's a big
should, we
help to
should
our
give,
business.
we should give him a mantra shirt by then.
I will give him whatever he wants. I'm happy to provide.
Yeah.
Um, but the way that we kind of see onboarding more traditional folks and investors and participants into the space is really doing it the non-scalable way. And what I
Mm.
mean by that is we really do spend time with all of our investors, one by one, asset by asset, case by case, teaching them, getting them to understand, educating them. Because if you get one, then they spread it by word of mouth to their partners
Yeah,
and to their network and to their
exactly.
ecosystem. And
But
it
the
is
right
bit by
one.
bit. And
It has to be
sometimes
the right
the
ones.
right ones.
Yeah.
Has to be the right ones, 100%. And if you get the right one, you get the person who's, feeling part of your story. And in our instance, in Dubai and the UAE, these guys are a part of our story. They are invested into Mantra. They are excited about what we're doing, and they have an investment stake, literally, into the protocol, into the project. So they want to see it succeed. So you have that alignment at that economic level, and then again, go out and try to teach them and get them to understand. And also, many of these instruments and opportunities right now in tokenized form are rather clunky still. And it's not super smooth. And we tell them, listen, this isn't perfect yet. These things are going to get better, but because it's not there yet, we will compensate you for that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things about having a blockchain and a token. You can incentivize activity that you want with your token, with the understanding that in the future this will be more liquid, it'll be more composable. You'll have clear frameworks and regulations. There'll be more things you can do with it. But honestly, it's not going to be this cycle. Maybe it's the next bear cycle, which actually I think is where
The building
many of
time.
these opportunities will be. Yeah, exactly. The building time, but also really where RWA start shining.
Yeah.
Because when it's meme coins and we're 100x's and to the moon all the time, frankly, the RWA stuff can be a little bit boring.
Yeah.
It's not the most sexy thing when you have AI agents and all these crazy new crypto concepts that are amazing and exciting and interesting. Um, but I think for us, it's still just we build regardless of the market conditions. It doesn't matter.
I would like to finish with this. So it's not sexy. This is the right word. So this
Yeah.
part of this part of the challenges that you've been facing for a while, I believe, and
I mean, we try to make it as sexy as possible.
Yeah.
um, we have pretty marquee partners, pretty marquee deals. It's not too unsexy, but
Yeah. What other challenges in terms of technology and how you crossed till this stage today? And you said
Hmm.
you've been in building this for 5 years. I would like to give you the floor to give me this experience of where you started and where you
Hmm.
are today, and what was the ups and downs on the way and the bumps on the way.
Absolutely. So I think, taking it actually pre-Mantra, was working back in 2016, 2017 on a centralized exchange project where we wanted to do, any asset under the sun on a SEX that you could trade with regulation and compliance and KYC and everything. That was a good idea, horrible timing. No
Yeah,
one wanted to do that at the time, right? And the technology wasn't there also.
yeah,
So we learned a lot from that experience. Then in 2018, 2019, and the beginning of 2020 was when I was working with our partner in the US under Tritorian Capital. And that's when they got some special licensing for this broker dealer to actually do tokenized STO or tokenized offerings under, Reg D private placement exemptions under FINRA and the SEC. And we actually tokenized the professional basketball players contract. That was interesting. The right licensing, technology wasn't there. Timing also wasn't there. That was a bear market. I mean, 2019 before COVID was a big bear market,
yeah,
and DeFi was just happening. Um, and when we were actually going out to market with the product, basically that's when COVID happened. So again, timing not good. Then we started being, a DeFi. Then Mantra happened. Basically, we started building out Mantra. It was initially a kind of a DeFi DAO project. That was my first time really as an entrepreneur building, true kind of software and technology. And we learned a lot about building in DeFi. A lot of lessons, a lot of painful lessons, a lot of hard work, a lot of, literally blood, sweat, and tears. Um, and had other markets, ups and downs as well. 2022 and 2023 particularly were extremely challenging years. And fortunately, at the end of 2024, we met the Sharuk partners and their team, and basically that was really like the game-changing moment for us because during that bear cycle, we kept together the team. We had been building, we'd been working on all these things, really understanding the landscape. And we were in the right position at the right time. We just didn't have any money. And finally, someone took a bet on me, basically, and a bet on our team. And we were able to execute against that with new capital. And have really been able to bring strong partners through the credibility that our investor base has given us, and through the credibility that we built through execution and delivering what we say we're going to deliver. And 2024 was an incredible year for us. We're one of the best performing projects in all of crypto. We intend to build on that. And I told the team at the beginning of this year, we had a very successful year last year, but what we did last year is not going to be good enough to make us do the same thing this year. So, at least me, I'm extremely forward thinking. So I don't really intend to become complacent with the success that we had. We just launched our mainnet blockchain at the end of 2024. So from my perspective, we just started.
yeah,
And the ecosystem hasn't even really begun yet. And we've had an incredible run, but the sky is absolutely the limit for us. And obviously, if you believe that, hey, the business is at the right place, we have a market leading position, we have a strong team and the right people, we have the right backers and supporters, we're in the right place at the right time this time, and this market opportunity is so big, for me, it's just very fortunate, very blessed, and I feel very humbled to be, able to kind of do this on a daily basis. I mean, I don't really feel like I'm ever working. I love what I do, and it's just a fortunate situation to be in, to be honest.
perfect. And all the best, John, for you and Mantra. And thank you for this nice chat.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. See you in Dubai.
See you.